Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today, what I want to talk about is how to navigate these times of uncertainty and chaos in a way that's productive, in a way that brings us more towards our goals and the life that we want to live. But before we get into that, if you don't know who I am, my name is Michael Ruiz, and I am an entrepreneur out here in El Salvador. And the reason that I want to talk about this today is because I've been scrolling social media and I'm seeing that there are a lot of young guys in despair. They're looking out at the world and they're trying to make sense of it. And they're having concerns and worries about their future, and rightly so, right? They're wondering how they're going to afford a home, how they're going to be able to raise a family, how they're going to take care of their parents, how they're going to be able to find a job in this market that's about to shift massively. And I can relate to all of this because when I was a young cat, 25 to 33 years old, I had those same concerns. In fact, in 2008, I was 27, 28 years old. And during that time, there was the financial collapse that occurred. And I was fresh out of college. I had graduated from Florida State University with accounting and finance degree. And that was a sector that got primarily hit. And during that time, there was all this confusion, especially with my education. I learned that the Federal Reserve was there to backstop the economy, was there to instill stability and make sure that inflation was low, make sure that there weren't any of these huge fluctuations in the market, and to also make sure that unemployment was low. And so all of that narrative shifted and changed immediately. I had to rethink the way I looked at the world. And during that time, I remember just being very uncertain and having a lot of anxiety about things, right? I was a young cat. I was looking forward to my future, looking forward to going out there in the world and taking charge and building my life. And then all of a sudden, you're faced with financial and economic calamity. And, during that time, I thought it was going to be really bad. I thought we were seeing the death of the US dollar, but it turns out they were able to kick the can down the road and keep the Ponzi scheme going. And here we are in 2025, and it feels very similar. It feels like crisis is on the horizon. And I know for young people, young men especially, out there looking at their future, they're wondering, what do I do? And so I want to give you kind of how I navigated 2008, what I did, and hopefully that provides you with some perspective, some stuff that you could work on yourself and position yourself in a way where you come out ahead. And so the first thing I want to say is that I really catastrophized 2008 because I had just learned about the way the world worked. I learned about how our money system works, the Federal Reserve, and how they are a private banking institution. I learned about the nature of government and the nature of those banking institutions. During that time, what I saw was that they are very willing to let the average American hang to dry while the rest of Wall Street and the political class gets bailed out with freshly printed money. And so I saw a lot of people lose their homes, a lot of people lose their jobs, a lot of people go into distress. But, the political and banking class, they got off scot-free. Nobody went to jail. No one really suffered any consequences. In fact, they all, like I said, got bailed out. And so that's the first thing to realize is that you're on this on your own, right? Like you have to take responsibility for your life. There are no saviors. There is nobody coming to make sure that you have prosperity in your life, but you yourself. And so it really forced me to take a look at my life and examine it in a way where I had to reevaluate what I was doing. I was living a very fiat life. I was, partying. I was working a bartending job at the time. I was watching Sports Center. Really, all my productive time and energy was invested in other things that don't serve my long-term interests and goals. And so, if you're a young man right now and you're in that position, really, I think the time now is to use this opportunity to reflect and evaluate where you are and what you're doing and whether that's going to serve your long-term interests and goals. Because here's what I will say. I think that we are absolutely going to go through major crises over the next coming years. And how you position yourself is really going to determine how you navigate those crises. For instance, COVID, right? COVID came in 2020, but because I decided to change my life in 2008, decided to take actions that were more long-term oriented and that would set me up for success, the impact of COVID on my life was very negligible. All right. First of all, I was able to have the optionality to pick up and leave where I was at. I was in Miami at the time, and it doesn't matter where you were at the time. If you were in a place with high density, even if you were in Florida or one of these red states, you still felt the impact of government control over your life. Things were shut down. You couldn't go outside. Things were restricted in a very severe way, right? Almost reminiscent of communist countries. And so I was able to pick up and leave because number one, I acquired financial freedom and I had the ability to do that. And that was all based off of my actions stemming from 2008. So use this time as an opportunity to recognize the situation we're in and position yourself in a way where whatever calamities come down the road, the impact from those calamities in your life can be mitigated, right? And in order to do that, I had to readjust. I had to change circumstances. Instead of working a bartending job, I moved and built skills and learned a trades job. I ended up working on the power grid where my labor was very much in demand. I was able to acquire a good paying job and kind of set my own hours. There's a lot of, once you're in an industry where you're in demand and there's not a lot of supply of people that can do the job, you get a lot of power from that. And so I was able to command my own hours, command my own pay, and really work a job that allowed me to save. And this is the other part, right? You have to realize that a lot of our economy is built on lies and fraud. And that's one of the aspects that I had to recognize. And during that time, it was 2008, I saw this and I put my money into gold and silver at the time. But that transition of learning how money works and learning that the financial system was corrupt, right? That led me eventually to Bitcoin, and that turned out to be a very good move for me. And so, you want to ground yourself in stuff that is real and stuff that isn't suspect. And so that's the next thing I would say is to, my advice for young men out there is to learn a trade and work a job that can't be easily replaced by AI, right? And save your money in something that is going to go up in value over time. And for me, I didn't trust the financial system because I saw what happened in 2008. I saw how literally presidents of banks went on to CNBC and literally lied about the state of their company, the state of their bank. And a couple of weeks later, it go under. And so these people will absolutely take advantage of you. And, where you put your money, where you put your savings is a big deal during this time. Also, changing your habits, changing your mindset is another thing that I would highly suggest people start doing. You got to realize that society has been set up to keep you dumb and keep you dependent. And so, one of the things that I've been thinking about lately is something called the sovereign mindset. And it's where you actually look at your life and evaluate who you are, what you want out of life, develop a purpose, a North Star that you can direct your attention and actions towards, right? And become very specific about that and make that your mission, make that your guiding light, make that the purpose that you wake up to every day. And that way you can filter out the noise. And then also that comes with changing, your beliefs, your habits, and so forth. Like there is an aspect to this where you are going to have to work on personal development because you've been conditioned through the age of fiat to be a person that is living beneath your potential and really having the drive to extract that potential out of you, right, is something that you can cultivate, is something that I cultivated. And it takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of effort. But look, if you want to maintain your agency and you want to maintain control of your life as, these systems around us start crumbling, that is something that you very much are going to have to deliberately choose to do. And so, I want to say that there is a way out. Like, this isn't a video about despair. Like, I was able to get the wake up call in 2008 to change my life and set myself up now where I never dreamed that I would have this type of optionality, this type of freedom, and just living out my potential and my purpose in such a way. And so this can be done. Take this as your wake up call. I don't think this is the end of the world, right? Life will go on. But I think that there is going to be a split in humanity. There's going to be people that follow the program, and that program is going to be, a debt-based slave system, right? And I'm talking very frankly and very direct. I'm not mincing my words, because I had listened to a speech by Doug Casey, and I had never heard someone talk so directly and basically say, look, you guys are libertarians, you guys are anarchists, you guys are, you don't believe in the power of the state, and you want to live your life according to your values and your priorities. And you're going to have to realize that if you're not taking actions towards that, if you're not building skills, if you're not making money, if you're not setting yourself up, you are going to be a cog in the machine. You are going to be at the disposal of the state. And so what is on the horizon is technocracy, right? CBDCs, social credit scores, 15-minute cities, right? If you're not taking action right now to build sovereignty in your life, you are just going to be a cog in these machines. You are going to have to do what they say. You're going to have to take the injections. You're going to have to wear the mask. You're going to have to do everything because you are beholden to that system. And so you have to really choose right now what you want out of life and make the necessary transformation in yourself so that you can take the actions to build it. And so that's really my message for you guys, young guys out there who are looking at the future and are in despair. It's time to take your life serious. 25 to 30 years old, like, this is the time to really make changes and take action. And so I hope that helps. I was able to take the wake up call in 2008 and really set myself up. There's no reason why you can as well. And so I hope that helps for these young men out there who are looking at the future and wondering how to make sense of it and how to navigate it. Hopefully this gives you some perspective. Don't catastrophize things, be proactive, and set yourself up so you become a sovereign individual. All right, take care. Peace.